You're listening to Devotions with Pastor Daniel Williams, taken from the Redemption Church YouTube channel.
Well, hey guys, today what I want to do is encourage you to find a place to pray. A place to pray, a place where you could meet with God and be with Him in prayer is just so important for us as Christians. Now, I know that we can commune with God anywhere and everywhere, right? Because of the power of the gospel. It's so amazing that God takes away our sins. He gives us His Spirit, His righteousness. We have fellowship with God. And so Paul says, hey, pray without ceasing. You can pray anywhere. We should be constant in communication and communion with the Lord because of the gospel of what Jesus did. It's good news. But we should also schedule times, special times of prayer with God. Sort of like what we're doing right now, praying for our children, taking 5 days to fast and pray. And we're in the middle of that as a church, taking a specific time to just pray for certain needs. It's so important to be specific, to have focus, and not just in the calendar, but also with a physical space. What if I told you that God uses spaces to actually talk to us, to meet with us? And what if having a special, specific place can actually help your prayer life and you talk and meet with God? For me, I've experienced this, having a special place of prayer. I have a few certain spots in my house, hopefully like some of you guys do, where I just pray, I study, I drink my coffee, I spend time with God. I have a certain chair or chairs. I meet in my office right here. But I usually with my prayer time, I meet in the early morning with some coffee in a certain chair and just spend time with God. And I don't just have special places in my house where I meet with God. I have places in my community, my neighborhood. I go for certain prayer walks, or I go to certain wetlands area in our city, a city where I pray and just walk, do little prayer walks. And I love going to the beach. Usually dropping the kids off of school and then heading down to the beach in a certain spot. I just have a special place where I just am inspired by creation and just be able to talk to God and pray things out. In fact, God gave me a very special place, not even only in our home, my community, but also in this country, in Connecticut. In Connecticut, Enders Island, I took my first 24-hour retreat there, and we were able to go back this last summer. I took my first 24-hour retreat during the sabbatical 2 years ago, but this last year I was able to go back there with the family on vacation and went out there to that spot a couple of times, and it was just so amazingly special for me. Once again, it was awesome. Now, these are my experiences, that having a specific place, whether it be a prayer walk, walking, or a chair, or a routine, somewhere where I can go to just meet with God to pray, has been very helpful. But I've also found that there are a lot of biblical examples that we can look to have a specific place to pray, a special place to pray. One of these examples in Acts chapter 10, verse 9, where Peter prays and has this vision and hearing from the Lord. In verse 9 of chapter 10, I'm reading through Acts right now, it says, about noon the next day, as they were on the journey and approaching the city, Peter went up on the roof to pray. His place of prayer was at his place, at his home, but it was on the roof, and he went there to pray, and God met him in a special way. Peter went on that roof to pray, sort of just like the prophet Daniel had a certain place and time to pray with the Lord. And it seems like this is a biblical, consistent thing to finding a place of prayer where you can go meet with God. There's a sense that the specific places of prayer were very common in the early disciples. In fact, as I keep on reading through Acts, I saw that in Acts chapter 16, when Paul was doing mission work and trying to reach disciples and where they would be, he went to the place of prayer. Verse 13 of chapter 16 says, on the Sabbath day, we went outside the gate by the river where we supposed there was a place of prayer. They imagined that there would be this place of prayer where people would go to. And so we sat down and spoke to the women who gathered there. They were actually disciples, women that gathered there to pray. In verse 16 of that chapter, he said, one day as we were going to the place of prayer, Paul traveled and looked specifically for places of prayer where people would gather to pray because he knew that it was a normal ritual. Why? Because Jesus even had a place of prayer, a special place where he would go and talk to God and meet with God. Luke tells us that Jesus prayed often, but one of those places where he prayed often, you may know it, it's the Mount of Olives, where he had this great Sermon on the Mount. In fact, Luke 6:12-13 says, it was there where he prayed for discernment before choosing his disciples. We have their longest recorded of Jesus on this Mount of Olives. In John 17, he actually had his longest prayer recorded there. And in Matthew chapter 24, verse 3, he taught his disciples there. We know he not only taught the disciples, but he had the Sermon on the Mount and this place where he actually went to meet with God, to teach other people, to make disciples. In fact, right before he went to the cross, he went to the Mount of Olives 3 times that week before the crucifixion. And after the Last Supper, Jesus took his disciples there. Why? To pray. And so Jesus clearly had a special place of prayer and even taught that we're to have a special place as well. Now, on that Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 6, verse 6, he would say, but wherever you pray, go into your room, and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. So let me just ask you a question. Where is your room? Where is your special place to pray? I understand that Inder's Island isn't very special to a lot of people, or most people have never visited there. And it doesn't have to be your place. It's my place. What is your place? Where do you go to meet with God? I would encourage you to pray for a special place to meet with God, to seek a special place, to try things out. Go to areas of your house where it's a designated chair, or somewhere in your community. You know, there are certain benches even in Delray where I go and I know I'm going to meet with God there. Maybe a specific place, maybe not a retreat center, but maybe you love the mountains and you want to take a retreat up into your own mountain in Georgia or North Carolina. Obviously, there are no mountains here in Florida. But we see this not only in the New Testament through the disciples, but the Old Testament as well. As we're studying through Exodus, we're going to see that Moses will have a special place with God on Mount Sinai, right? God would tell Moses and meet him in a special way, giving him the law and these type of things at this mountain. And he would even glow from meeting with the Lord in that place. We see other people, men of God in the Old Testament, like the prophet Jeremiah. God would tell him, hey, I want to take you to a certain place, right from where you're at, to a certain place to go check out this pottery, and I want to teach you a lesson. Do that. Jeremiah 18. Sometimes we need God to get us out of our own routine and a different routine of just a physical place to pray. You know, it's not only okay to have a special place to meet with God, I think it's actually good. It's good to do that. It's good to be in the house of the Lord where you could be inspired by other people's faith and give your time and attention to a physical location and go and pray with other people when we gather for a church service. Or it's good to have a nice quiet place, not where there's not many distractions and you're not interrupted very often. A special place maybe for you would be God's creation that inspires you, like the beach or sitting by next to a lake or just going on a prayer walk where you're active, maybe praying next to your bed. Like, where are those places where you can meet with God? And so as you consider asking God to give you a special place, let me give you just 3 simple benefits of having a place of prayer, of thinking about this concept. Where Peter went to the roof doesn't seem very special, but that was where he went to pray. As you ask God, where is your special place? Here's some benefits of having a place, physical place to pray. 1, well, if you have a place to pray, you know you're going there to pray, right? When you go there, you're going to pray. This is powerful. You're going there for a specific task and to meet with God. It helps you keep focused. You're not leaving it to chance, but you're actually planning it out when you have a prayer place, or a prayer closet, you may say. Another benefit is you actually have to set a specific time for a specific place, right? When you're there, you're praying. And now when you have a place to pray, you can schedule time and it can be a part of your regular routine. It could be a part of your regular routine and you could pray more often. Again, not leaving it to chance, but specifically planning strategically to meet with God. Number 3, I think you know you're going there to meet with God. When you go to your specific place, you're going to make an appointment with God, to talk with God. You're physically doing something. It's relational. Your relationship with God is emphasized because you're making time, you're scheduling it out, you're going there. It's sort of like you're meeting, like you would like meeting a friend at a coffee shop. You're going there to have fellowship, to connect, to spend time with them, to build your relationship. And so relationship stays the focus as you have a physical place, as you schedule physical time and you meet with God. And so those are just some benefits of maybe having a place of prayer. Again, it's not necessarily a legalistic thing, and you can pray right now. And I hope the prayer videos that we're sending out are important and they're good for you to do. But it's okay as a disciple of Jesus to want to meet with him. You know, with Laura, we have fellowship all the time. We talk all the time, but it's good to have date night. It's good to schedule trips away, to have vacations, to make things special in our relationship. And I think having a place of prayer could do that with you and the Lord. And so I just want to encourage you to pray through that. Think about a specific place where you can meet God and just talk to him, read his word, hear his voice, spend time in solace and silence and solitude. And so I hope this helped. I hope this inspired you. Hope that you're blessed by fasting and praying. As we're praying and fasting alongside of you this week, it's the middle of it. And I just sort of thought about my morning routine and how I get up and go to a certain spot, and thought I'd share those thoughts with you sort of as just a devotional for our live devotional week message this week. And just as we're praying for children and thinking about that prayer, man, what a blessing it is to be able to have spaces where we can go and pray and talk with God. So keep up this important work as you pray for the children of our church, as you ask God to bring people into our lives that we can minister and care for as a church. Know that he's hearing your voices, your prayers, and he delights in them. And so just keep up that good work, and not only lifting up the children's need, but your needs and other needs. We can always take time to pray, and we can always make a space for prayer. And so let's just continue to be praying and finishing up our prayer and fasting together strong. So God bless you guys, and we'll talk to you in the next video.